what did y'all think about these pages? I like the scene that sticks out to me the most is when Ana kills and cooks the pigeon that she had been like, it was almost like a pet pigeon she had named after all of her siblings and cousins in DR. And then she goes to the roof and kills it and then cooks it and feeds it to Juan. I think to me that was like a really break in character for her, or at least a big piece, a big scene of character development. What did y'all think about that scene? Do you remember that?
How could you forget it? Something
He was trying to poison him, right?
That's what she said. She didn't mention it again, right? But before she killed it, she did say that.
Well, it brought back memories from my background where aunts and they would talk about poisoning their husbands because they were being mistreated. So yeah, it happens.
Yeah,
it happens. They would slow death.
Yeah, it didn't seem like a really strong effort to poison him. I think her thinking was that there's so many diseases that pigeons must encounter that through eating a pigeon, the husband would get a disease. I mean, it seems like if you want to poison somebody, you can poison them, and I don't know
what? I think quickly in the earlier, probably in the first pages that we read, Juan mentions to her not to like interact with the pigeons in New York because they're not the ones like back home in DR, they have diseases. That's what he told her.
Yeah, that's true.
You're right, Ana. It wasn't like calculated. It wasn't a calculated move, but at the same time, I think Ana has a point when she says, like, yeah, women would, poison or attempt to poison, their husbands when they were being mistreated. I'm sorry, Jacqueline.
No, I was just going to say, because I have written it down, that there was a bit of a foreshadowing earlier in the book, I think on page 74, because that caught my attention, and how he called it like rats with wings. Because I heard that story, right? When you move to the States and everyone's crazy about pigeons, because back in the DR, pigeons aren't perceived that way. And then people talk about them being rats with wings, and you kind of change that perception of that. So earlier in the book, he tells her to beware of pigeons because they will make you sick. So now we get this situation. So yeah.
I don't know who was the one that said there's someone. Sorry, Willie. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying I think it's like her also asserting her power, but it also reminded me of like her naivete too. With being young and like things that we see with Maricela, how because once she gave that ring over, I knew it was over. So like different things like that we see that it reminds us that she's in this role where she is a woman, but she's very much a child. And I think that's kind of how the brother's wife looked at her. Like that's why she was like rolling her eyes at her and like passing her off, was just because she knew that she was a child.
I see it a little bit differently. Like I think she always had a streak about her. Like even when that first time he brings her a live chicken, and although she's startled by it, she didn't hesitate to just twist its neck and kill it to prepare it. And now I was shocked by the pigeon, but I think that there's a streak about her that it's kind of covered with her age, but she's like a survivor. That's how I see her. Like I'm gonna do what I have to do. And she's kind of shown us that in these two situations with animals. Like she's twisted the neck, cut off the neck, like boom, this is what I have to do. So she's like a child, like a devil child a little bit. Like she's complex.
Barbara, were you going to chime in?
Oh, I was just gonna say that I think that someone had mentioned, I don't remember, it was Ron. He said something like, there are other ways to poison or something. Is that what you said, Ron? Yeah. So my thought process was, for her, I'm not sure if she's to that level, but if you're poisoned with a pigeon, there's no evidence. So, yeah.
Check her out.
You like that, Anna? So I'm thinking that, you know, you die, buddy. Like, you know, don't mess with me. I mean, and she even said it, right? Like at the end of that chapter, Anna, stop it. At the end of that chapter, she said, but really, fuck you, Juan. Like, to say, I don't remember who was the last person I was talking. I think it was Jacqueline that said something about that she was probably smart. I don't remember who was that person that was just saying, but I agree to the fact that she's a little bit smarter, or getting a little bit smarter than what she was, even though she's still 15, right? Because I don't see her saying, oh, I'm 16 or 17 at this point. I think she's still 15 when she's talking, because when she met Maricela, she was 30, and then she said, wow, I'm half her age, and she was saying, so she's only 15. So in this short period of time, she's really getting a lot of knowledge, I think. So that's pretty much all I was going to say. Thank you.
She's adapting to her environment, you know? That's what she's doing.
Yeah, and she's definitely using the tools that her mother told her too.
I was going to say the same thing, Willie. I was going to say the same thing. I think it's ironic, and I know that, you know, for the past few weeks, we've been talking about the parenting or the mothering of the mother. And I found it interesting that on page 120, you know, she says, mama doesn't believe women can be friends, right? Like all these things that her mother was telling her about how to take care of herself, or, you know, I know we were passing some judgment on mom, but we're almost kind of seeing some of the manifestation there between the relationship, and it's unfortunate, right? Because now, I mean, that's not true, you know, women can be friends, but her mom was trying to forewarn her about certain things, and yes, there was this naivete with her, and you know, yeah, the minute she gave that ring up, I said, oh girl, you're not ever gonna see Maricela again. You're never gonna see her again. That's it. We all knew that, right? We all knew that, but poor thing was holding on. She was holding on, right? But I thought it was interesting that we're seeing how the advice of the no good mama is kind of, you know, rearing its head right now. And even the animals piece, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure some of these things were passed down from, you know, I've seen my grandmother take a chicken, like break the neck, feather it, and that's dinner, right, in Haiti, right? So I feel like that was also part of what she learned and saw, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You never went to a vivero?
What's that, Anna?
The viveros,
Oh.
where they kill the chicken and they send you to go buy chicken. They kill it right there. It stinks.
Yeah.
Still have a couple in the Bronx.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, there are a few in the Bronx.
Just bring that neck.
Easy, without even a thought. Like, no reservations or hesitations.
It's dinner. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. It's
Fresh.
dinner. Fresh.
Fresh kill.
But you know, the one thing that, and I may have overlooked this point, does she serve him the pigeon in a stew, or is it like, I mean, even in a stew, you can still see pieces of what you're eating, and a pigeon does not look like a chicken.
How you know?
I've seen pigeons and I've seen chickens.
Cooked? You seen cooked pigeons?
A pigeon is close to like a game hen, I would say, or something like that. So yeah, a pigeon's leg is like this big,
Yeah.
as opposed to a chicken leg, and just the body. Like, wouldn't you know? Like,
Didn't she just use the blood?
What's that?
The blood?
What's that?
Didn't she just use the blood?
No, she cooked the chicken.
No, she cooked the chicken.
She
So
chopped
maybe
it.
I thought she chopped
The
it up.
pigeon.
She
I
chopped it up.
thought, I mean,
Remember,
the pigeon.
she made the
I thought
mom
she
sauce. She prepared it in her mother's sauce.
Yeah, come on. That
Right.
can smell
Okay,
good.
it's kind of like another layer to it. It was like she cut it up, and I think she had it with like cilantro and some garlic.
Still,
He
it's
enjoyed
like,
it.
You got a
It was
recipe
great.
for us.
it's a pigeon.
That was the best meal he's had.
That's what she said. He had only complimented her a couple times on her cooking, and that was one time. So it kind of reminded me of that movie, like Water for Chocolate.
Oh,
There, have
see.
you guys
Yes.
it kind of reminded me just a little bit of that vibe, like cooking something with love versus cooking it with maybe some malice or some indifference.
And how it reflects the intention.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get to a man? Through his stomach. Come on now.
So kind of moving on from there. Does anyone have anything they want to add before we can always speak up later, but one other thing I just kind of wanted to get y'all thoughts on was when Juan had to leave. I definitely want to talk about the ring more and that whole scene, but one thing that I thought about a lot was when Juan had to leave, go to DR and Cesar moves in. Like, what did y'all think about that? It seemed like Ana was very excited, like she almost was getting a new boyfriend in a sense, somebody that she actually liked, because she doesn't like Juan. It's not even that she doesn't love him and they're married. She does not even like him. I don't even think she likes him as a friend, And it's almost like she was creating in Cesar what she wanted out of a man. Like, what did y'all think of that whole dynamic?
Well, to me, it seemed like she was just feeling so oppressed by him, not just abused, but always in the house. She couldn't do anything without him finding out if she did that or this or that. And it felt like, oh, this is freedom. I'm going to be able to get out of the house. I think she even says it, go to Woolworths, look at all the things, go to the park, go here, go there. Like have a sense of independence that he doesn't allow her. Even when she says she wants to go to church, it's like, what do you mean? Oh, okay, yeah, right. Okay, yeah, you can go to church. Like him deciding every move she can make. So that was my sense, that it was just like the world was opening to her by him, being gone.
Yeah, I'd use the same language as far as opening up her world, especially considering that Juan's whole deal is instilling fear in her of everything, not even of just himself. Just like, can't open the door for anybody, no one in the building you can't trust, don't talk to anyone on the street, don't look anyone in the eye, the crack addicts or the cops, don't do. And now this world's opening up where Cesar's like, yeah, we're going to go to Radio City. What do you mean? Like, I know a guy who can get us in. It's like all these things where he's not overthinking it. It's just sort of like, here we go. We're going to be going on these adventures. So, I mean, she can't help but, I guess, be drawn to that. But I won't theorize on, what I think that might mean for the relationship.
I also found it interesting that
Go ahead.
I found it interesting, following up with what Brandon had mentioned. She was so excited to be in his company. What's his name again? His brother?
Cesar.
Cesar. Yeah, she was so excited to be in his company, like the way she was cooking for him. Like, I kind of got the vibe, like, is something gonna happen between them? Like, why? Because yes, she has her sense of independence now and she can do all these things. But I just felt like her excitement, aside from her excitement of being away from Juan, but her excitement about him and the comments she made about him being with other girls and how she has the meal waiting for him. I'm like, why is she so excited to just be around him? But then I thought about it like, okay, he's the only person that she knows, so it's probably just that. I don't know if I'm overthinking it, but part of me feels like something could possibly happen between them.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember her always like making Juan's dinner and leaving it, you know, in the refrigerator on the stove or something like that. But for the brother, she stays up and waits for him. I don't remember that ever happening with Juan. So it's just very interesting how she almost immediately tries to replace Juan as soon as he's gone. Do you know what I'm saying? She's not really happy for alone time. She's happy for another companion. And I think that's really interesting.
Well, he's younger and he's more Americanized. He's like a little hippie, or, you know, with his afro, which she calls something else. And he's like there for the moment. And he's very, you know, he's lively. And that, you know, and his brother is a dip. So
He
yeah.
doesn't seem to be interested in her though.
He doesn't seem to be interested in her at all.
Right? Like he's
not yet.
Kind of like
Yeah, he's got all these women all over the place.
She's pregnant too, so.
Oh yeah, she's
excited.
Yeah.
But she's also his sister-in-law.
Yeah.
I just can't see Juan trusting anybody like that with, you know, Ana. I don't know. I guess I thought that was very out of character for Juan.
That's his brother. Yeah.
His youngest brother.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like, he's about 20. So he's like 5 years older than Ana, very close in age. But I think, you know, the whole thing about the money, when he asked her, did you take the money? And that his brother yelled at him. You know, my sense was like, you know, like he knows his brother would kill him. His brother would kill him for having taken the money. Forget going after Ana. You know, like, I think that's why Juan left her with him, because it's family, and your family doesn't do that kind of stuff.
Like he trusts his brother to not mess around or fool around with his wife, but he doesn't trust him to not steal money. Like he didn't even suspect Ana.
Right.
And Cesar right away knows it's her.
That definitely wasn't
That's
expected.
interesting. That's interesting, right? Like how Cesar just knew that it was her. I mean, he straight out came out and said it too. Is that you? Did you take the money?
But she denies it.
You saw her at the
Well, what is she gonna do? She's gonna say
right? She's gonna deny it. She's dumb.
She knows his temperament. She knows. So I mean, I don't even know why she even said Antonia did it. Like that was a stretch, but okay.
Whoa.
Right. And then that's when, I mean, you can tell that Cesar just sees right through Ana, you know. I think he's much more hip, you know. She calls him a city boy. Like, I think he just sees right through her. And who else would have taken it? You know, realistically, who else would have taken it? Who else was in the house? So yeah, I think like I'm really appreciating the layers of Ana that we are getting in these next chapters. You know, she's like not this like sweet stay-at-home mom, or maybe she's not as sweet as we think she is. I do like how she's very adamant about seeing, what's her name? Marisol, not Marisol. Maricela again. Like she just goes to any church on a Sunday thinking that she's gonna see her. I thought that was again playing into her naiveness, but at the same time playing into her warrior spirit. Like, I'm gonna find this girl, you know. I'm like, I'm gonna get my ring back, my man's money back, or whatever.
I also thought it was interesting how Juan is the man, right? He's the one controlling, yet he never suspected of her. Like, who's the silly one now? Like, he blames brother. He thinks he got it all under control. It's beyond him to think that she would falter. And that's kind of an interesting shift of power, right? He he doesn't even fathom that she would step out and like she would do something like that. So that I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I can tell if that's because he thinks she's just that naive and that, you know, like backwoods, or if he is just not as smart as we are giving him credit for, you know, to begin with from the
he
jump.
thinks he scared her straight enough, so she wouldn't dare. She don't want another flop.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he definitely thinks that she wouldn't even dare to do it, and he's not giving her credit for being as sneaky as she is.
Yeah, but you know what? What's so funny? Like, he should know. He kind of should know, because at that scene, I forgot the page, but that scene where he said, "Oh, let's go take you out to buy you something." I think it was like very early on in the pages that we had to read.
Yes.
And she decided, "Oh, really? I'm going to get X, Y, and Z." And she said, "I wanted it all." And then where was that? Oh, and then he said, "You'll regret that smart mouth." Like, she was like, "I dare you." Like, she was almost in his face, like, "What? Bring it." Like, see, that's the way, like, the way she sounded was like, "Okay, let's see." So he should have known that she has a little spice in her. Like,
That's true.
wait a minute, you know?
She also said that though because they were in public and she knew that he wouldn't hit her in public. So that's where that boldness came from. Is that, you know, you're not going to do this right here. Like if it was behind closed doors, she might not have been as bold to say that.
Yeah,
She
but
may not have been.
She still took a risk there, because I agree with you, Greg. She did that publicly. She knew, she had the wherewithal to know, you know, I'm going to cross the line here because he's not going to dare shatter his image in the public eye. But she took a risk there because she's not going to be public every single day. She's not going to be in public, you know, 24 hours a day. I was nervous that when they got back home, you know, it would turn, right? So she took a risk. She took a risk, but she also took a risk when she left. We're there, right? Because that was part of what we read. I just want to make sure. Yeah.
Where?
Why, Lydia?
Left where?
What?
When she left to go to the hospital?
Yes.
Or when she left to go
She was running
Like
away
to the bus station to
when
go.
when she went to leave.
That was last week.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just making sure. I know I read past. I'm just not sure. I couldn't remember where exactly everything was. But she took a risk there also, right? Like, I mean, that goes back to what Barbara is saying in terms of this spice, this, you know, a little bit of what her mom didn't like in her sister, right? This sense of, I'm going to do something different from what's expected of me, and I'm going to take the risk despite, because when she was leaving, I was like, where are you going? You know, where, you know, so I think that is definitely in her, right? Also probably a trait that she's picked up from her mom, right? Pick up everything, right? Or not.
But you know what? She's testing her own waters, right? So with her trying to leave, that was kind of like under the bus, like, okay, I'm going to try and sneak out, that type of thing. However, when she came in his face, he knew that she wouldn't do anything because they were in the public eye. But going back just a little bit, on page 113, she said, inside the apartment, he is a bull. On the street, he looks small, vulnerable, even scared, as if I can blow him away like a speck of dust.
There you go.
Like, to me, the same way he's kind of feeling her out or thinks, he's not feeling her out, right? She's feeling him out. She's learning more about him, and she's realizing this guy, he acts like almighty and whatever when he's in the house, but when he's outside, he's a nobody. So guess what? You are going to be a nobody in my eyes now. So she's putting feelers out to him. So, you know, that's how I feel like she's sensing, oh, he's not going to do anything. He's all right. And you never know. If he does come home and beat the shit out of me, all right, so what? It's not like you haven't done it before. So I'm going to take it. And then what? You're not going to do it again. Like, she's just exactly, Jacqueline. She's sizing him up. Exactly.
But is she trying to test the bounds with him just to level the playing field? Or is she really inch by inch growing away from him, growing out of the hold he has on her?
I think exactly what you're saying. Exactly what you're saying. That's exactly what I think.
You know what I think neither, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't think for her to be inching away from him would imply that at some point she was relatively close to him, and I don't think like they ever bonded or they ever had a connection or she ever liked him at all. You know, I don't think that he ever really amazed her, right? There's that line when she is going to church and he like stays in the bed, and she says about Juan, in his mind, God is for the unlucky, the poor, and the desperate. Juan thinks he is none of those things. And I think that line right there is very telling, right, of what Ana really thinks about Juan. I think that, you know, in some way, he is exactly what he doesn't think he is, right?
Well, he's a big shot.
I think he sees that.
He's a big shot in the DR, right? He's a big shot in the DR, but when he's in New York, he's just like everybody else. He's
nothing.
But even in the DR, she saw that his restaurant wasn't a restaurant with linens. She saw that it was like a shack, you know, and it wasn't. That was, I think, the beginning of her really getting, oh, what is going on here? These people don't have money. They're not wealthy. They don't have
titles to anything.
Yeah.
So I think she didn't have to go through the journey, like to see like that, like Oz isn't real. She immediately saw it. You know what I'm saying? Right when she was taken from her parents' house, the first place they go is to this restaurant that he's supposed to have, and she immediately drops. You know,
yeah, right.
So I think like she goes in with that fantasy kind of stripped away. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
And then she doesn't have a wedding, which she's also expecting.
Right.
You know, she gets to that restaurant and they're doing the papers, and then she's married. She's got that dress on because she's supposed to go get married. It's like it all comes apart.
Illusion, right?
And she's
like,
19 years old all of a sudden.
15, yeah, right? It makes me think of, for those of you who speak Spanish, mucha espuma, poco chocolate. That's what we say. a lot of suds,
Froth.
no froth. Yeah, a lot of froth and no chocolate.
And there's a little bit of chocolate.
That's right.
You know? He's all this and he's all that, and little by little, exactly as Anais stated, from the get. It was a disappointment. He's like, what? This is it? I'm married? And everything was smoke and mirrors from there. And then he's falling apart in her eyes. He's just like whatever she had hoped he would be or was forcing to thinking he would be, it's not. And that's kind of how I see she's envisioning him.
But she still has her agenda and her mother's good advice that she'll take whenever it's appropriate, and she's gonna learn. She's gonna do those ESL courses. Now that he's gone, she's out. The bird is out of the cage.
That's why when he said no one is gonna take care of her like he can, I was like, man, boy, bye. Like when she's able to, she'll take care of herself better, or she could definitely find somebody else to like.
What?
Well, that's all that somebody in his position has, right, over her, is the idea of being the provider. And even just thinking of just as hard being like this kind of victim of abuse, how attuned she has to be to, or anyone who's in an abusive relationship marriage, how attuned they have to be to every whim, emotion, change of behavior, mood shift of their man. And just think of every time he comes home from work of them. So we shouldn't underestimate the power he still has over her in that sense, where she's very much at the mercy of whatever he's feeling in that moment. Coming home from work, is he drunk? Is he annoyed from his job? Is he angry? You know, trying to look in his eyes to see what they're feeling like, everything about him. And she recoils because she needs, it's a defense mechanism. So a lot of it is she's still at the mercy of what he's doing. So even though he might not seem like his power is like declining, I would say the hold is still there. But now that he's gone to DR temporarily, we would think it's loosened up a lot more.
He's providing her the basics: a roof over her head, food in her belly, you know. But she's growing.
Exactly.
Not only the tummy.
But also what Greg said is like, it's like perfect. I mean, she is really studying him. And it's funny because what was that? Her mom had said something, but also I think Maricela said something to her too. Like, men, you have to think for them. You're thinking for them. She's studying everything. And he doesn't even have the opportunity. He doesn't even realize what she's doing. He's just kind of living his daily life. Right? He just lives his daily life. He comes home from work. He does this. But her life is him. So she's studying his every movement. Like Greg said, like his eyes, his this, his everything, his body language. As soon as he comes in, she's thinking, uh-oh, all right, let me see, why is he like this? Is it da-di-da? Is it this? Is it that? Like every single movement he makes, she's studying, and he doesn't even know it. Like he's so completely absent-minded from it.
He's oblivious, is what I say. But I do agree with Greg that he still holds like real power over her. But that's the power that you can outgrow. That's the power that she can overcome with her own strength. But the power that she's gaining over him, this is what it seems to me, because she's studying him little by little, and she's demystifying him, and he's still holding on to his ideology of himself, but she's like breaking it apart. While in the meantime, if you flip the coin, he's oblivious to her. And it's kind of interesting to see that. But the power, definitely, he still holds a lot of real power because he provides shelter, food, and things that are very tangible.
But that's okay. That's temporary.
There you go.
But wasn't her parents also expecting her? Her parents were expecting a lot from her with that relationship. So her parents, especially like her mom, because her mom was sending her letters, reminding her of how important it was, for her to be a good girl, so that whatever Juan wanted regarding building that wasn't he going to be building a restaurant or something like that on their land, like saving their property? I think she was also just kind of like, she was like a sponge taking it all in. But Juan wasn't the only one that had the power over her. She was kind of like doing the bidding so that her parents can live their life, because her mother kept telling her, you got to marry him. He's going to save our land. We're getting old, and your brother and sister got to come there. And so she had a lot of pressure on her for a 15-year-old, and so she became like a sponge. And I think she kind of like let Juan think at some point that he had the power over her when she knew what her purpose was. Her purpose was to bring her family there, save her land back in the Dominican Republic, and bring her family there so everyone can have a better life.
Not so easy.
It seemed like Juan was just a tool to that end.
Huge undertaking.
Bringing the family over.
Well, I think that was clear from the very beginning when she was still when they were making the deal, the mother was laying it out. This is what is at stake here. This is what.
Yeah, they both have their agendas. But unlike Ana, unlike Juan, I think Ana has a one up on him because I don't feel like he's really studying her, paying attention to her growth and the way she is with him. So eventually that balance might shift.
But he didn't love her. He wanted the land that her parents had. He was using her. He was using her the same way the mom was using him through her daughter. She sacrificed her daughter because she wanted the family to have a better life. And so she was the sacrificial lamb for the family, with Juan.
She's the pawn.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point, Faye, because it's almost was so transactional. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Ana gets to go to the United States and then bring everybody over, and they get to, the Ruiz brothers get to have part of their land. So it's almost, it was like such a business deal.
Yes.
You know, forget love, it was just a business deal.
Yes. And remember when her mom, I think it was like earlier in one of the earlier chapters where her mom was like, are you a manatee or are you a shark? You know? And so she kind of like embraced that role as a shark. I think that Juan, and I think they underestimated her. And I think Cesar, her and Cesar, there was something that was so similar with them both that they connected because he saw in her the same drive that he had in himself. The want, that desire to be from underneath the weight of Juan. Because I think he was like, Cesar was doing Juan's bidding. Whatever Juan told him to do, he had to do it, you know, and he had his own dreams of things that he wanted to do.
Wasn't Cesar the one who made the suggestion to Ana about her opening up some, like a food truck or food cart?
Yes.
Because she cooked so well.
Yes.
Just to sort of, you know, entrepreneurial, make money.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
He was full of ideas. He had all kinds of ideas.
You know, on this thing about Ana being a shark, I was on page, what is it, 160, this part I had marked when she's at the church at the end and she's looking for Maricela, and she says, no, Maricela, maybe something bad happened to her. Maybe she was taken away. How many women back home have disappeared from one day to another? Too many to count. Maybe Maricela is trapped. How many women get to choose who to marry and can truly dictate their own life?
Mm-hmm.
As God is my witness, my daughter will have these choices. I pray she'll be stubborn and free like Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just thinking about that, about like this, on the one hand, we could say, yeah, she's, you know, really got her plan. She knows what her job is. Her job is to get her family over, but it's also, she comes out of a life experience where women don't have much choice,
yes,
if any, and women are being murdered.
Yes.
And that was really hit me because, you know, this is 1965.
Mm-hmm.
And she's saying, you know, every day women disappear.
Under Trujillo, especially.
You know, yeah. And, you know, and we know about it now, like the women disappearing in Mexico, like all the, you know, just thousands of women being murdered in Central America, you know, just, and it's like, it's always been happening.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what is that reality like when you just see that around you, and that's what you're confronting, that level of, you know, of no choice and of threat to your own life.
Yep.
I just I want to address one thing that we definitely should ask the author next week, and that's kind of what we've been talking about since the beginning, of the lack of dialogue tags or quotation marks. I'm curious. I see what's being said in the chat, and I think I brought that up in the first week. So we'll definitely, I'm sure the author has been asked that question a lot. So I'm curious to know what she has to say. But do you all think that it makes it difficult to read the novel because of the lack of quotation marks or dialogue tags?
Well, somebody said last week that it's because it's like this is really in Spanish. And the author just twisted it into English. Because there's some things that I don't understand. There's some sayings that just go by me. I don't get it, and I speak both languages. So I'm trying to like figure out what I can't find it right now, but I don't know, you know.
I experienced the same thing, Ana. Like I was thinking, like I speak both languages, but then when I look at the sayings and I translate them, like just for an example, she says on page 175, a dead fly. you play the dead fly.
Yeah.
In English, that doesn't make any sense, but then I kind of translate mosca muerta. That's very meaningful in Spanish.
Yeah, mosquita muerta.
Mosquita muerta, right? It's that idea of someone who pretends to be very, very
naive, like a fly on the wall.
A fly, like you're just playing dead, but you're very alive and you're very aware. So that I would be interested in asking the author, like, what are the choice, like, because it would be lost in translation for even those of us.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, if we don't stop to think
Goat
about it.
stamp and charge their attackers. I get
if
it.
If you think about it in that sense, right, it actually connects very well to the story, right, to what's going on Anna's life. It really is in every possible way lost in translation. Not only is she navigating through a foreign country with a foreign tongue, but she's also navigating through this very strange, unpredictable, very difficult to decipher relationship, if we want to call it that, marriage, right, arranged marriage. So it's kind of like on multiple ends, right, we are feeling the weight of that being lost in translation, right? And the confusion, right? The confusion of being so young, virtually on your own in a new country. So I think that, and also we're really close to Anna, like we're right in her head, everything she's thinking, but also I find it interesting that the dialogue tags also disappear when anyone else is speaking. They don't even have to be speaking with Anna. We still don't get those markers. So, and it's also like kind of everything that's going on in the story. It doesn't let up, like the history in this story are kind of like side by side, right? Like we're getting on a story in the backdrop of MLK's assassination, in the backdrop of America invading Santo Domingo, in the backdrop of like all of these like major historical markers. I thought that was done really well. It wasn't overwhelming, it wasn't shoved down your throat, but like Betty Shabazz comes, every few pages she's brought up again. And I think that, and it's not overwhelming. I don't even think she mentions her by name. I think she calls her the Black woman in the red hat that comes to the
Lay the flowers.
Yeah. So it's kind of nice to be like in this historical moment, but not bombarded with like facts and dates. It's really, really, really tender in a sense.
I agree. I thought she weaved it in very, very nicely, and like it was just as a matter of fact, like things like I hadn't pieced together that Rubirosa had been killed during that time, and that in fact 65 is the year I was born. It's a very historical moment in the Dominican Republic, and I hadn't realized. I'm a history teacher. Like I hadn't put the two together. Malcolm X was killed that year, and it's just like things that she just happenstance. She just kind of mentions it, and it weaves nicely together. But it brings us back. So I really appreciated that sprinkling of history, but like you said, not making it so obvious.
The author also makes a point to, she offers a perspective from she offers a view from the widow's perspective. She mentions Betty Shabazz, she mentions Jackie Kennedy, and how they saw the assassination of their husbands. So it's kind of, which is to me is kind of powerful storytelling. It's one thing to say, oh, I feel bad for this person as a person, but if you think about like the most tender person in their, each of their lives, how did it hit her?
It's also removed from any sort of political implications, because you have to understand that Anna has no idea the importance of Malcolm X and who he was. And the Jackie Kennedy thing was, her takeaway from that was how to be a good wife, right? That was all the different lines of advice that Jackie said as far as being a good wife, and the mom insisting, oh, you need to listen, like this is what you need to take away from it. So it's very divorced from, anything in regards to power or politics. It's really just down to the personal of what she sees.
or how women can get by without husbands.
Yeah, I think it gave her the strength because she saw, you know, what they did even after their husbands were murdered. They got up every day and they kept moving. I think she drew from their strength. And if I can just circle back, even like when I read that portion where it says you play the dead fly, I just, in my mind, when I read, I said, yeah, he's telling her, you're trying to play Miss Innocent over there. She goes, he's like, I got your game. You can try to play innocent all you want, you know? So she had so many different ways of the way she just drew strength and the way she was able to almost be like a chameleon. She knew she learned how to adapt. Like when Juan came home, she knew how to adapt. When Cesar was there, when he accused her of the money, like she learned how to adapt very quickly for a 15-year-old.
Yeah, that's a lot for a 15-year-old. Being removed from her mother country.
Yes.
With this ugly man. And then being raped, you know, 'cause that's what she was.
Yes.
She's been through a lot.
Yes.
She does.
Are you guys? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, I came in late. Hi, everybody. But how you guys feel about her getting involved with the brother? You probably guys talked about that, and I missed it.
Yeah.
Why
We might not be at that page yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No,
we are.
Well, what do you
she's
mean by
involved with
involved?
him, but not, she's involved with him.
She's involved. They're living together.
Brother-in-law,
Okay,
sister-in-law.
brother-in-law.
Sister-in-law involved. They're not doing anything.
It's early on. He hasn't been gone that long.
It's not that early. She's pregnant.
Well, not by Cesar.
Yeah, not by Cesar.
You know what? I was thinking, how do you pronounce your first name? Is it
Mine?
Bielka? Yeah. Bielka, you know what I was saying before you got here about that relationship. Actually, we talked about it briefly. And I was saying that it looked to me that, you know, Ana was independent now, right, of Juan since he was leaving, but she kind of almost immediately connected and attached herself to Cesar because he meant freedom. You know, it wasn't the same with Juan, but at the same time, she knew him, she felt comfortable with him, and it almost seemed like she felt like she needed a man, you know, she felt like she needed that, at least that, those basic protections, right? House, clothes, some food. It felt like she needed somebody to take care of also in that sense. Like
I'm not mad at her at all. I'm like, girl.
I thought it was 15 years old. Very out of character for a man like Juan to leave his brother with his wife. I don't know. Maybe I'm bugging, but
well, because business is more important to him.
Exactly. She was just there to clean the house and
he didn't love her.
He's oblivious that anyone feels anything, that she's an entity, that she's a person. He's I don't think it enters his mind that she can actually have feelings of her own and that his brother could dare cross the line. Like I think it all goes back to that he's so caught up in his own head or whatever it is he's pretending to be, that there's no room in his imagination for anything else.
True that.
But also he seems like he's in love with Caridad too. Like,
I know.
That's who he loved. He didn't love Ana. And then Gabrielle is the one who awakened her womanhood when they went to that house that he was watching. That's where she felt something in her body. Yeah. And I think with Cesar, he kind of like did the same thing because he was soft. He treated her nicely. Juan didn't really treat her nicely. So, and I think she even knew it was like crossing that line with the brother, but she was able to kind of like look past it because she knew Juan was in love with someone else.
Somebody else, yep.
Someone else.
But isn't that a huge tragedy? Is there anyone else who knows how Gabrielle made her feel? And does anyone care that she's entitled to those kinds of feelings? Her mother, her sister, anyone?
No. As
that was stolen from her. That was
that's
like
totally her own thing.
Taken from her, the very early stages of her coming into, you know, realization of her own feelings and her own sensations in her own body. and like you said, no one seemed to care.
Yeah, and since everyone else is being convenienced by their relationship, like everyone except her, you know, it makes it all transactional, and he doesn't really care, you know. That's also something that I find.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Also, Juan fashions himself as the smarter, better looking of all the brothers. So he may not see Cesar as a threat to, you know, to his relationship with Ana.
But wasn't there also the skin color issues?
Yeah, his skin color,
It was
hair
skin
texture.
color.
Right, he was
lighter, and the other brothers were darker, and so that's what gave him that whole light skin, dark skin.
Yes, like
happening.
he envisions himself superior. I hadn't thought about that. That's very good.
Yeah.
That goes on everywhere.
Yeah.
Were there any other kind of like lines that stood out to anyone? We read quite a few tonight, but I thought the language, I really enjoyed the language and a lot of the one-liners that were in these pages.
Just want to mention that I was really bothered by Juan's letters to Caridad. They just kind of came in.
Jacqueline,
yes.
Can I ask you to maybe stand or sit a little closer to your microphone?
Okay.
That's possible.
Okay.
If not, don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
no, I got you. I think,
go.
Right, yeah. What I was saying is, in speaking of the language, that I was really bothered by the letters from Juan to Caridad, just kind of being thrown in there from no one's perspective, just for our information. That was an interesting use of the author to kind of keep us, the readers, informed of what's going on. And I found myself kind of being bothered by that. It was so hypocritical. I couldn't empathize with him. I just couldn't. So I don't know if anyone else felt that way.
Well, I don't know if it's a known fact, but certain men have more than one woman and they go back and forth. And that, to me, that's no surprise. I'm not shocked.
Some of them all sing Kumbaya in the same living room.
Yeah, I wasn't shocked.
I'm not
bothered. I wasn't
not bothered. It's, you know, it's a man's world. That's what they do.
Yeah. Well, especially back then, it was, you know, I mean, back home, I mean, it's a known fact that this man have, you know, several women, and sometimes even the wife ends up raising kids that don't belong to them. There's, you know,
from another mother.
Yeah, and it's sickening to me because I would not put up with something like that. And I was not sympathetic towards Juan whatsoever. Wow. So I was like, I'm glad you go, girl. You go, you know, have fun with a brother. It's okay. I'm not mad.
Yeah, you know what? I'll say this. The only thing that kind of shocked me about the letters was that Juan was writing them. Like, I thought that was huge character development for Ron. Ron. For
Oh, same thing. Same mentality.
No, but from what we know about Juan, I thought that was very, I was taken aback by the fact that he had multiple women, but the fact that he was writing love letters. Like,
I know, that's
yes, so uncharacteristic of what we have seen. So that's what I'm saying. We get a little injection of what's going on behind the scene, and I can't identify with it, and I'm a little upset over it. And I would love to ask the author, like, what's the purpose? Because it's just a letter. We don't have a narrator. We don't have a story behind it. It's just informing us, of letting us know this other side of Juan. You know?
Well, could it be also that just like how Ana's mama wanted her to marry him to save the family, he could have been faced with the same thing where he needed to marry her because her family had something that he needed for his family.
Real estate.
And he was in love with someone else. And so like someone was, it was transactional. So both of them gave up that natural love of meeting someone and dating someone. And that's why she used to lament about her sister Teresa with her boyfriend, that she was able to find someone without someone telling her who to be with. So Juan might have been in the same situation where he had to marry her because her family had something that his family needed.
Yeah, but you know, one thing I agree with you, but one thing I think about, what do y'all think about this? Like that, the idea that all of that, what Ms. Faye just said, you know, I think very much can be true, but what is, you know, strange, what is a little unsettling is that we can have this, you know, transactional marriage or this arranged marriage. Both of us are getting something out of this, and you don't have to beat me. Like, you don't have to do that. So that's the kind of like part that's like that makes it a little complex.
Yeah, I guess he was probably, you know, being hot-tempered, frustration, knowing that he could do that to her and get away with it, to give him that power. And to give him that sense of, like, she was almost like in his way, really, you know, and he had to play this game of putting a roof over her head, and, you know, because he really restricted her from doing really
everything
much of anything.
Yeah, he told her, do not go to the store, to the grocery
She
store.
couldn't feed the freaking pigeons.
Exactly, nothing.
He was jealous of the pigeons.
Yeah, but she talks a lot about how kind of equates how he treats her to how he might treat an animal. She feels like, you know, a hen being let out of the pen. She can go and come and go at his will. And so the way he treats her might be, you know, he's keeping her under control like he would an animal. And
absolutely.
I don't want to say it as plain as that.
Over her.
Again, nothing new.
But you know, what's also interesting is kind of like what Jacqueline was saying earlier, how we get the letters and they're kind of like just there with no real context. You know what also is similar like that for me in the story is those references to I Love Lucy. I think it's we're kind of just like there.
Yeah, I was confused a little by that. Yeah.
Well,
the only thing is, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say quickly that Lasaya mentioned last week that show was about an abusive relationship.
Yes,
you know,
that's what I was gonna say too. Yes.
Yeah. I Love Lucy was an abuse. I didn't look at it that way.
Yeah.
Lasaya, do you remember saying
it blew my mind last week because someone brought it up and I was like, oh.
Yeah, Lasaya.
I hadn't seen it that way.
She was in control mostly. Just because he yelled at her, come on now. Babalu. Babalu.
But in real life, it was. I think because, you know, they were a couple in real life. So here there was abuse there somehow. I don't know.
Oh,
but it was like accepted abuse.
They were married.
It was like the common thing at that time. But there's also, I don't want to say racist because Desi was Cuban. And to make him the aggressor like that when Fred, the Caucasian husband, was more passive to his wife.
You know,
so it's like stereotyping.
You're making me rethink I Love Lucy all over again. I was last week, I was like, oh, gee, I hadn't thought about it.
Remember, she was real. She was always scared of him before he came home if she did something wrong.
Oh, please.
Yes.
That's like an abusive relationship, though. You know.
She wasn't scared of him.
Really? It's my mom's favorite show. I'm gonna go.
Come on now. She wanted all kinds of crazy things that he wouldn't, you know. She wanted to sing the show.
He was aggressive about it. He was. Yeah, I have to rethink it.
Go watch some shows again.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch some shows again.
But she used it well though, because at the time that's when she was going through the abuse, and then when I think she correlated it when I think she did it scene by scene, and it was relaying back to what she was going through at that moment. So I think the author used it well. So, I mean, in my opinion.
But you know, Ricky and her relationship, it was a little bit transactional too. She wanted to be in show business. He was her in. He could get her in.
She was an actress.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Desi Lou. Desi Lou Productions.
Desi Lou Productions, yeah.
It's Desi and Lucy.
Desi Arnaz and Lucy LeBeau, right?
He was definitely portrayed as the loud
Latino,
moody,
yeah.
Latino, hot-tempered, and I'm definitely gonna have to rethink this.
I love that show. Don't mess it up for me.
Well, the Honeymooners is like that too. Remember?
Oh, the Honeymooners, yeah. Bang,
that one is even worse. That one is even worse because he literally like makes gestures.
And it's acceptable, right?
Yeah.
There's no Me Too movement.
That's the era. Yeah.
He will lose his job in this Me Too movement.
And some weight while he was at it. Pero, nah, it's things that were allowed then that obviously are not allowed now.
Yeah, you couldn't have that on TV now. A lot of the stuff that was going on then couldn't be on TV now.
Like
but
them.
That shows that, yeah,
that
culture
show them,
accepted.
man, that's whack. So it's like, I don't know if I could continue watching that, but you know, there's things happened.
I found another one of those crazy translation that the author makes on page 186 towards the bottom.
Espérate.
186?
Yeah. Like the fifth line from the bottom up. She says, I play the crazy goat.
Where?
So 186.
Oh, sí.
La 186. Right?
La
yeah, 186.
La Chiva Loca.
La Chiva Loca. And to me, I was like, I play the crazy goat. Like, what the hell does that mean? And then I'm like, she means La Chiva Loca. And then it's, again, translanguaging. Like, it's like we live two realities. At first, when I first read it, like, I couldn't. I'm like, then I had to translate it in order for it to make sense to me.
I still don't get it.
Do you know when people say La Chiva Loca?
Not really.
Not really? Okay.
That must be
like
somebody said it.
Yeah, me. When you're referring to La Chiva Loca, it means that you're acting like you don't know.
You don't know
what's going on. Like you're oblivious. La Chiva Loca doesn't know what's happening. So when you say that yo me hago, it's like I'm pretending to be La Chiva Loca.
Right. It's like I'm playing dumb.
Exactly.
But you know, I know very well what I'm doing. And he says, I play the crazy goat and say, thank you, Sister Lucia, pretending that she doesn't know what Sister Lucia really means, but she knows. But that's one of those things that get kind of lost in translation.
But then when they say that the goat stomps and then attacks, is that the same goat? I don't know, we're talking about goats.
Where you found that?
That was the one before that she.
Yeah, that was the one where she stuffed the. Isn't that where she stuffed the food in her purse?
And then you attack. So
she compares. I think she compares the way the goat behaves versus the dead fly. So she is saying basically that the goat shows its true colors. It shows what it is. It just stumps. But the fly plays dead to pretend. So in that sense, I think she's saying I'd rather be the dead fly.
No, I don't think so. If I understood that sentence, because remember she took the food that was next. Wasn't this the part where she takes the food by the bathroom, the wafer or something?
175. In 175, it's I don't remember what
175.
Yeah.
Isn't it when she stole something like?
Yeah, she stole the food, the wafers, and she put it in her pocketbook. And so when Sister Lucia dropped the bag, she yanked it so hard, and it was like she had to play dumb, like stupid, and try. Oh, it's heavier than what you said. She had to quickly make something up. because she didn't want her to see that she stole
she is stolen. Yeah.
the wafers.
So this is a different goat, Anna, to answer your question.
It is a different.
Yeah, it's a different goat.
It's the same animal in two different situations.
In a different light.
Yeah, two different.
Yeah. It's a different goat, because the one I was referring to before was on page 175, where she
175.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she says.
And she's using one of her mother's advices. She says,
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All animals have to defend themselves. Goat stamps and charge their attackers. Fish swim away, but flies play dead.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, she uses these animals because that's pretty much what she knows, right?
Right.
If fly plays dead, that means it's still, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that when you whack it?
No, they play dead, and then they just think
if you
they're
see
harmless.
a fly on a wall and it's playing dead, you don't know it's playing dead. It's still. So it's
right when you go to whack it, it flies off.
That sucker. Like, you know, I'm playing dead.
Yeah.
I don't know things. I just.
Yeah, but Mosca Muerta is that translation. That's why I said it's lost in translation, because Mosca Muerta is someone who pretends that they don't know, but they really do. But in this case, she's saying pretending to be dead, to really they don't show their true colors, right? So
It's not the fly on the wall.
no, it's a different fly.
Okay, a different fly.
Okay, there's one I was gonna let go, but since we're doing this, I'm gonna ask.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
75, she talks about, and she's talking about her sister. She's skinny because she can't recognize a cripple when he's sitting down.
Oh, you know, I wrote that one down.
What page is that?
That's way back on 75.
On 75.
Oh, 75.
That one was even lost to me,
Taking me
but
back.
let me see, because I saw it and I was like, huh?
Espérate, 75. Let me just. And what's the saying?
She can't recognize a cripple when he's sitting down.
True that.
Let's see.
That is, you know, that's.
I
obvious.
remember seeing it and thinking, what the hell?
But what
does
is the
that mean?
connotation?
I can catch an image. I mean, you see someone sitting down, you
Yeah,
don't know whether
but
they're just sitting down or they
what's
can't
the
stand up.
context of it?
But is there a translation that is more familiar?
Yeah.
That's all I don't know.
Can you point to the line here? So
So it's the middle of the page when she's talking about, you know, can you send money? Poor Teresa works in a hole on the worst street, where they steal the underwear off you if you walk too slow. That's a crazy one too.
Picture that.
I'm in the Zoom. And I'm cooking.
If you walk too slow. Okay. The one over here that she works in a bad area. That if you're not careful, they could take off your clothes without you even noticing it.
Right.
So it's a bad area.
Yeah, that one is kind of obvious, but I was caught. I must say, when I saw that, I was like, I was already prepared for her translation of things that didn't make sense. So that one caught my eye too, but not knowing. Sorry.
Nice.
Is it possible she's trying to be more universal, because some things might be a Dominican saying and other things might be a Puerto Rican saying and other things might be a Cuban.
Yeah, it could be.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because
well, I don't know. I think it's on the contrary. I think she's using like really Dominican sayings. To be quite honest.
Right,
but in some cases, I find her saying things that and I'm Dominican, it don't make any sense to me.
Yeah, but the thing with Dominican Spanish is that, you know, depending on what region you're from,
yeah,
I agree. Each other. If you're from the Northeast and you're speaking to someone from the South,
and also how long you've been here.
Yeah, or if you're from the East Side, you know, and you're speaking to someone from the frontera, which is the border of Haiti. They all speak different. They all have different sayings. They have a different accent.
Yeah.
They call food different things.
You're
so
absolutely right.
that plays into it.
Yeah, I agree because that one I
can't
by that
find that
one.
one that he was saying. I don't.
On page 75, and it's
we seem cheap, skinny,
Because I
like
have different pages here, but
because
definitely, like, if you can, everyone that's looking, try to mark them for next week. Maybe we can run them back. See what she was thinking.
I think that sentence that you said, I think it means like she doesn't, like she's an airhead, like she doesn't recognize, she's skinny, like never seen before. She can't recognize a cripple when he's sitting down.
I'm gonna have to ask the author about that.
The obvious.
I see it now.
Yeah, because it kind of translates. I think it kind of translates to, the saying says, "No puede verlo lisiado cuando está sentado." So it has like a rhythm to it. But I think it does mean something like she's
that unless it's obvious, she can't
to
see
recognize what's in front of her.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I kind of
think
took
that's
it
what
as she doesn't realize someone who can do her harm, can't tell a minnow from a shark. So she's going to approach them
it's
the
something
same.
like that.
I think that's a good one.
Like
I didn't even know that one. Minnow from a shark. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, but it's kind of like she has this thing in front of her and she can't even see it. She can't recognize what's in front of her.
It's different, I think.
Unless it like it shows, like it has to be very obvious.
It has to be very obvious.
Right,
for her to
obvious.
see it.
But I'm glad you brought that up because that one did kind of, I had to do a double take and I didn't get it either. So thank you.
Yeah. And that kind of makes sense, especially considering like all the work we had to just do to figure that out. Like it kind of makes sense that it is written like this, so we can feel that same confusion and have to do so much hard work just to find out a simple saying like most people have to do when they're trying to learn English. English is such a weird language, and we have things like that don't make any sense too, So I think that like it's very effective, right? The writing and writing it in all English and translating word for word, it's very effective in this. It may be hard, a little difficult to read, maybe a little unconventional, but it's very effective in the sense that we're right there again with Ana, right? We're not missing a beat on her journey. We're like
her experience.
We're feeling all of it, right?
Yeah.
Were there any other, we got about 8 minutes left. Were there any other scenes that we haven't brought up yet that someone wants to talk about?
What was the wafer stealing about?
Yeah, they were good. They taste good.
Yeah. But it was by accident. It was by accident. She stole them.
It was? It wasn't an accident.
No, it was no accident.
Didn't it like fall
into her bag?
Yeah.
That fell in her purse. That's a
He
good one.
indicated that she was going to bring it back, but she never did. So it wasn't necessarily accidental. But there is definitely something, as a lapsed Catholic, there is something about the communion wafer and like doing something to it or taking it that I don't know what it is. There's like something about that.
Sacrilegious. It's sacrilegious.
I didn't know they came in packs either. Good to know.
Big bags, apparently. I knew a guy, just a quick story. He was an altar boy way back when. Bear in mind, he's like in his 50s now. He's an altar boy. He said he was an altar boy saying this, but he got high before serving mass, and he was in the back just eating wafers out of the bag. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, the munchies for wafers.
Yes, I've heard similar
How much respect people have for these things.
And then he downed it with the wine. What are they made of, right?
He was hungry.
Rice.
He's used to eating Chef Boyardee.
It's the body of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we know all that already. All right, don't get into a sermon now, Rob.
I mean, I thought that was very interesting, though. Somebody just said she's hungry. She's used to eating Chef Boyardee. I thought that was really interesting how she didn't have. They never really had enough food. She was always like eating smaller portions.
Yeah,
there'd be enough. It was like, and it was just the two of them, but yeah,
like rationed. It was like rationing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was saving that food for Maricela, her friend.
Always the best for the guests.
That's right.
That's the Dominican way.
That's right.
The best for the guests.
Where they had was too much salt. Otherwise, they had meat or some kind of
a
product and pasta.
But Juan introduced her to it. Like, here, this is
Yeah,
good for
that's
you.
American.
Like, what?
You wouldn't even let her have the chocolate bar. Then that store owner's like, "Oh yes, it's good, American chocolate." Like, I'm not buying that.
I'm not buying that.
Milk chocolate.
Nasty.
And also the fact that Juan doesn't eat Chef Boyardee.
Exactly.
He expects his meal. So it's more to show that, the nuisance that she is for him.
Exactly. Save the good food for me.
The husband, he doesn't eat Chef Boyardee.
Yeah.
Well, she's cooking for both. She cooks for the neighbors.
It's for everybody.
And everybody. Yeah.
One quick thing that really caught my eye was about Cesar on page 172, when he says, "I feel at home in Harlem," where the women don't clutch their purses or cross the streets when he walks by them. That really resonated with me because it speaks to
This is what page? What page?
That's on page 172.
172.
In the
Remember
middle of
that.
the page.
So he's a little hippie. He's a little.
Yeah, Harlem is where Cesar got the crazy idea to let his hair grow and pick it out into a puff. That's an afro.
Yeah, right. I thought you would finally call it afro, but it's a puff.
Yeah,
Okay.
I kept waiting for her to call it an afro. But yeah, he says, but that's that he feels at home in Harlem. And that kind of reminds me of my brother. Like we lived right there on 137 and he started to grow his afro. And that just really resonated with me because that was perhaps the intersection of races and being a Latino, but also being Afro and identifying yourself with that community. And that resonated with me. And the fact that he felt comfortable, no one was grabbing their purse. And that was my first neighborhood, which was 137. And it's like you just, at that time, in the 70s, you would just blend right in. So that was pretty cool. So we see his frame of mind. He feels at home in the U.S.
All he needed was a daishiki.
He probably had one.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And the beads. Cool. Reminiscent, beautiful 60s.
Yeah, and then like it's crazy with the Dominican culture how Black is seen as bad. Anyone who has darker skin is seen as less. So the fact that he feels at home here is good for him because I can imagine that when he travels back home, he's treated way differently than Juan is, even though they're brothers.
And even though 90% of our skin is dark over there, so.
That all started with Trujillo, unfortunately. Now we gotta start teaching our kids different so that they don't carry that over to the next generation.
Absolutely. I got two myself.
It's not just back home though, that he would feel differently. Like I think he said Harlem specifically.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just back home. Do you remember that scene where he and Juan went to a bar and it was in the States? It was like they threw Cesar out, didn't they?
Yes, they did. There was a club somewhere.
Stopped him from coming
it
in.
It was with the Irish. They said something like that.
Yeah.
So it was very specific to Harlem. And I would say that colorism is not just a problem in the Dominican Republic. It's unfortunately a world problem. It's the way it was indoctrinated.
Yeah, definitely. But for someone born in DR to not feel at home is crazy.
Yes, it's sad.
This was a really great discussion. Thank you all so much for showing up and being so generous.
Como siempre.